Hi, I'm Stuart from FlutterFlow,
And I'm Harini from BuildShip.
and today we're here to talk to you about the new Trigger BuildShip workflow library.
The Trigger BuildShip workflow library provides a seamless connection between your FlutterFlow apps and BuildShip's powerful backend workflows.
This integration allows you to tap into the complex business automations you've set up in BuildShip easily from your FlutterFlow front end. Process data, integrate with external systems, and handle enterprise-level tasks securely, all while keeping your sensitive business logic and operations safely abstracted from your client interface. Let's start in FlutterFlow. First, we need to add the BuildShip workflow library to our project. Here's how. Head over to the FlutterFlow marketplace and search for BuildShip. Click on the Trigger BuildShip workflow library and then the Add for Free button to make it available as a library that you can access within FlutterFlow. Inside FlutterFlow, head to Settings, Project Dependencies, and then under FlutterFlow Libraries, select Add Library. You'll then be presented with a window asking you for library values. Library values are essentially variables created by a library author, but intended to have their values set by the library user. These values allow the author of the library to set values that can then be assigned by the library user, such as API keys, specific library settings, or other library-specific configurations. There are 3 different ways to connect into a BuildShip workflow depending on your authentication needs. Let's break them down. The first option is no authentication. This is the standard FlutterFlow trigger. Super simple and perfect for testing or workflows that don't require authentication. Then there's Firebase authentication. If your app uses Firebase Auth, this is the way to go. It secures your workflows with Firebase authentication and ensures only authorized users can trigger your backend processes. Or Supabase authentication. For apps using Supabase Auth, this trigger locks down your workflows with Supabase authentication. We're going to talk through each of these individually, but for now, I'll pass back to Harini, who will take us through the setup in BuildShip.
Over in BuildShip, the setup is easy. You simply create a new workflow or select an existing one. Here, we're using the pre-built Scrape website workflow from the Templates section. Click the Triggers button at the top of the screen, then Add Trigger, and select the appropriate FlutterFlow trigger based on the authentication method you chose earlier. Let's start with just the standard FlutterFlow trigger. You simply define a path and hit Connect. BuildShip will automatically map the inputs you've defined in your workflow to where they'll come through from FlutterFlow and generate a configuration JSON for you. Hit the Copy button, and back in FlutterFlow, let's plug in that configuration JSON.
On the Library Values screen, simply paste the configuration JSON into the BuildShip configuration field. The BuildShip configuration field is the only field you need to add in here. The rest we can pass back to BuildShip when we're triggering the workflow. You can now trigger your BuildShip workflow just like you would any other action in your project. In the Action Flow editor, you'll see you now have a new action block called Trigger BuildShip Workflow. Here we'll pass those remaining library values back to BuildShip. The Input Values field needs to be a comma-separated list of the values your BuildShip workflow is expecting. Add them in the order they're shown in BuildShip to make sure they're matched correctly. Now remember, BuildShip is expecting a list of values. So regardless of the number of inputs you have, you need to make it a list by using the code expression function. And we do that by writing out each input, separated by a comma between 2 square brackets. We only have the one input for this workflow, so we add it in like this. But if we had 2 or more inputs, we list them out in the order they're shown in the BuildShip setup screen, like so. If you're using authentication, there are a couple more important steps. Firstly, use the Auth option value to select if you're using Firebase or Supabase authentication. We've set up an enum to make sure you're always sending the correctly formatted value back to BuildShip. You also need to send back an Auth value to BuildShip so that it can be verified to be coming from an authenticated source. For both Firebase and Supabase, this is the JWT token of your authenticated user. You'll find this under the Authenticated User section in the options. Add in an output value so you can use the response from BuildShip in subsequent actions. Once everything is set up, you can start triggering BuildShip workflows directly from your FlutterFlow app.
The Trigger BuildShip workflow library bridges the gap between your beautiful FlutterFlow frontend and powerful backend processes. By keeping sensitive logic and operations on the server side, you ensure better security, scalability, and maintainability for your applications.
Until next time, happy FlutterFlowing!
And happy build shipping.